A few weeks ago, I met a lady who came to the Institute, and she broke down crying as she shared with me that she had been sexually abused. She came also seeking peace and a way to make sense of what had happened to her. She was able to find some resources to help her on her path of healing, and again left with a sense of hope. These are only two examples of many who have come to Garchin Institute, not just seeking peace, but seeking healing. Healing cannot happen when our nervous systems are continually bombarded with the loud sound of planes taking off and landing. Garchin Institute is a beacon of healing and peace for people locally, nationally, and globally. I asked the Planning and Zoning Commission today, how do we put a price on human development? How do we put a price on healing and quality of life? There are very few places we can go in the world today and be completely transformed for the better. Garchin Institute is one of these places. I asked the committee to seriously consider what kind of world you want to be responsible for creating. Not just for this generation, but for many generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Joy Hout. I probably said that wrong because the last second letter I couldn't read it.
That's okay. I get called a lot of things.
Well, let's call you what you're supposed to be called. What's your
Hollett.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Joy Hollett. I just had a brain fart. I'm not a very good speaker. Sorry. First, I want to say, waiting to get in here, I had heard several comments about the Perkins family. I'd like to say to these people that said stuff, if you don't know them, it's best not to say anything. They're my neighbors, and they're great people.
Thank you.
Anyways, I moved up here 24 years ago for peace and quiet and less pollution. I lived in Phoenix for 50 years, so I know about noise and pollution. So the reason I'm here is I'm against the runway. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Matthew Vasquez.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Matthew Vasquez, and I'm also speaking on behalf of my wife, Rachel Hopkins. We reside in Tucson. We've been visiting Chino Valley and the Garchin Buddhist Institute since its inception in 1999, recharging our work-weary minds and bodies in the natural beauty and open space and blue skies here. We've been long-term steady patrons of Chino Valley businesses in conjunction with extended stay in residence visits to the Institute. This can also be said of thousands of others who come as return visitors, pilgrims, tourists, and sometimes even dignitaries and movie stars. Over these past 26 years, the Institute as a destination has drawn people from just about every state in the country, as well as internationally. Asia's 6 regions, Europe, North and South America. We commonly meet people who may be at war with one another in their own countries, such as Ukraine and Russia. However, here in Chino Valley, at the Garchin Institute, they spend time together in peace and harmony. It seems that the ice block that can exist at home, for all of us, myself included, melts away, and we learn to be a little bit easier to get along with. I drove up from Tucson today on behalf of Rachel and myself to oppose the rezoning from single-family ranch to agricultural residential, as well as the associated conditional use permit for the proposed airfield. We don't see how this squares with the general Chino Valley Plan 2040, which places a particular emphasis on the local rural beauty, peace, and tranquility as a draw for future smart and sustainable growth. It is clearly incompatible to place an airfield with its well-documented detrimental impacts into the midst of pre-existing homes, neighborhoods, and businesses that produce far less noise pollution and currently generate income for Chino Valley. The difficulty to control, stem, or limit negative impacts are unfortunately pervasive and already well documented by neighboring communities of Cottonwood and Clarkdale, now in dispute with ERAU due to a pattern of broken agreements related to level and frequency of use. It is dramatically impacting their small town peaceful living experience.
Can you wrap it up, sir?
Yes, sir. Last couple of lines here. Why would Chino Valley choose to be next in line for a decreased quality of life? While we understand the need for the AU to train pilots, the impact of choosing this location places an unreasonable burden on pre-established residents, businesses, and the Garchendos Institute. Once again, we are opposed to the rezoning and the associated conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Nancy Silver.
I have a note that she no longer wishes to speak.
Jessica.
Selena Hardy.
Good evening. My name is Selena Handy, and I am
Sorry
a
about that.
resident of the unincorporated part of Yavapai County. I'm representing my husband as well as quite a few of my neighbors who were outside. I wish you guys had a camera in here to see the hundreds of people that have left because of not being able to get in. We are writing to formally express our strong opposition to the proposed airstrip. We chose to move to this community specifically because of its rural character, tranquility, and high quality of life. These qualities were central to our decision to live here and invest in our property. The introduction of an airstrip would fundamentally undermine those conditions and permanently alter the nature of the area. The anticipated noise from aircraft operations would significantly disrupt daily life, interfere with the enjoyment of our homes, and negatively affect health and well-being. This noise would not be occasional, but ongoing and unavoidable for nearby residents. Such disruption is incompatible with the residential and agricultural community. The hours of operation from 5:30 a.m. to 11 to me are unheard of. Even construction can't start till after 7 or 8 in the morning, and we want to allow flights at 5:30. In addition, we are deeply concerned about the impact of local wildlife and livestock. The area supports native wildlife whose habitats would be disrupted or endangered by aircraft activity. Furthermore, neighbors keep horses on their property, and sudden, repetitive aircraft noises pose serious risk to their safety and well-being. Loud and unexpected sounds can cause horses to spook, increasing the likelihood of injury to both animals and people and making routine care and riding unsafe. Beyond these specific impacts, the airstrip would irreversibly change the character of our community from peaceful residential and equestrian environment into one dominated by aviation activity and incompatible use for this location. We respectfully urge the City Council to prioritize the quality of life, safety, and environmental integrity of existing residents by rejecting the proposed airstrip. Development should enhance our community, not diminish the very qualities that draw people here. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. John Garden the fourth. John Garden.
He left about an hour and a half ago.
Thank you, ma'am. Bailey Perkins.
Hi, I'm Bailey Perkins, and I'm sixth generation of the Perkins Ranch. And I'm currently working alongside my dad, Shane, running the cattle that my great-grandfather and his grandfather before that ran cattle and maintained the land. My family has been here since the year 1900, which is over 100 years, much longer than anyone in this room. My family helped build this town, and we are doing this airport to benefit the upcoming pilots who will serve this country in many ways. The town is growing by leaps and bounds, whether we like it or not. It would be great to see positive growth. Alongside that, many people talk about how loud it is, but I've been horseback working cattle, learning how to read cattle and watch the way they react. And many people can agree horses are very sensitive to touch and sound. So why do the loud planes, larger than what will be used through Embry-Riddle, not spook our horses? My little brother rides unbroke colts who are just getting used to all these sounds and noises. Don't even spook at the noises from these airplanes. If it is not affecting them, then how loud can it be? I have also rode through antelope, and the noise doesn't even bother them. I have worked these pastures since I was little, learning every part of it. So I've been under all of these planes that were flying over, and it has not once bothered us or the cattle. And these planes are right above us. This is private property, so other than the terrible noise people claim the planes to have, it has not taken anything from them. My great-grandfather, Tom Perkins, wanted this land to stay in the family and work for what took care of his family. That was his dream. He told us it is not our place to tell others what they can and cannot do with their land, and we have stood by that. So we are for this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Amy Wolkin. Amy Wolkin. Oh, thank you.
Amy Wolkin, 9801 East Evening Star, Chino Valley. I'll begin with a nugget of wisdom. When people and institutions show you who they are, believe them. Two local big boys proposed this project for their own economic benefit and their own convenience. For Embry-Riddle, a nearby location for flight training operations. Thousands of them yearly. For the Perkins Ranch, a stream of rental income. So two benefit. This proposal brings no economic benefit to the town, and it significantly devalues property while destroying the peaceful home environments of thousands of residents who will be living under these daily overhead flights between 5:30 a.m. and 11 p.m. Also, Garchin Buddhist Institute, who you've heard about, is a 25-year-old ongoing business concern which does bring economic benefit every year to Chino Valley via thousands of visitors and retreat participants. And this runway is aimed directly at them and will decimate their very existence. It's an interesting fact, isn't it? At the April 2nd Board of Supervisors meeting, residents of Cottonwood and Clarkdale stated that Embry-Riddle is not a good neighbor. And our friends there have been suffering to the point of literally begging the Board of Supervisors to use their power as leverage to get some relief from the unrelenting noise. An official from Embry-Riddle at that meeting stated our main goal is to get students across the commencement stage. Perhaps what was left unsaid was regardless of who our goal impacts. So we have an actual living example of who they are and what this means for us when we look to the residents of Cottonwood and Clarkdale. We don't even have to guess what this might be. Do you really want to sacrifice a big part of our existing natural resources for no economic benefit, just to provide income and convenience to these two entities, while destroying the quality of life and property value of the current residents of Chino Valley and the surrounding communities? This all flies in the face of the Chino Valley General Plan. Pun intended. Again, when people show you who they are, believe them. Thank you.
Frank Nelson.
Frank Nelson, unincorporated county. On this map here, that's where I live, right there. We have this going around there. When my wife and I got married in 1977, her parents had moved to Chino Valley off of Red Cinder Road, Road 3 North, and quaint community. We enjoyed it. And so we made plans to perhaps retire here. Because of my business, I was in different places, but we bought land here about 15, 16 years ago. And first my children and then my grandchildren, we brought them here. And the beauty of it was the quiet. The dark skies, the quiet. And to be honest, I was getting piloting lessons. I'm not against airplanes, they're not that loud, but so I was pondering, and I was looking at our contract when we bought the land. And are you guys familiar with Arizona Revised Statutes 28, 84, 85? It actually says that if you're selling your land, you must disclose, and let me quote it here, as being in an airport influence area. As I'm seeing this battle going on, my first thoughts are you guys familiar with Blake Ranch? It's up by Kingman. I bet the Perkins are aware of Blake Ranch, and they're good people. We live close to them, and I can tell, like has been said many times, generations have done this and been here together. And so I respect that you can do what you want to do with your land. I would never want to buy land and have someone else come in and tell me what I can do with it. But as I watch this whole story unfold, I think about, I'm watching the airplanes fly over. They're not that loud, but they do make a noise. It's not quite as peaceful as it used to be. But I am worried that it goes right at the Institute. I've always been respectful of that. I think that's a really good thing. And so, the one thing just said a minute ago, I think, is what is about my bottom line on this is that how does the city of Chino Valley benefit? And if we just do this for the benefit of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, I don't resent the Perkins doing something with their land at all. However, it does affect things, and I think we need to pay attention to that, and I would like it to benefit the community of Chino Valley a little more than it appears to be in this first step. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dan Kells.
Good evening. So, my name is Dan Kells. I'll try to make this brief and try not to reiterate on what's already been spoken. So we've heard person after person after person come up here and lodge their complaints. Primary complaint seems to be noise. I worked in aviation for 40 years of my life. I get it, you know. My wife gets it because she has to yell at me all the time because I'm pretty much deaf from working in the industry. There you go. So I'm up here to talk about two things. One, I'm up here to talk about or talk for those who don't have a voice. And I'll get into that in a minute. And then I'm up here to talk about an alternative. There's always an alternative. Being in aviation for 40 years, I understand Embry-Riddle's stance. Huge convenience for them, really is. But obviously there's a price to be paid for convenience. I've had the pleasure of living in this state since 1982. And I'm an outdoorsman, I'm a hunter, I'm a hiker. And I remember the days that I used to drive through Chino, and now I'm going to be talking about those who can't speak for themselves. But I remember the days that I used to drive through Chino. You see antelope all over the place. Now you drive through Chino, and it's like, oh, there's one, wow. You know, huge reduction in the herd of antelope up here. So much so that the Game and Fish have actually relocated herds due to urban sprawl up here. You continue to implement projects like this runway. That seal of the town of Chino Valley on that rug that we all walked across when we came into this building tonight, the most prominent thing on that seal, pronghorn antelope. You keep implementing projects like this, you might as well take that antelope off that seal, because you think the noise bothers human beings? That's birthing ground out there. Those antelope will vacate that property in a minute. You won't see them out there anymore. So I'm just here to speak for those who can't speak. Secondly, the alternative.
Sir, time's up.
Okay, real quick, the alternative. You've got Seligman, Arizona. You've got a 4,800 foot hard surface runway up there that I believe Embry-Riddle paid a lot of money to have that project done so they could continue their training up there. Take that $15 million that they want to spend over here, put it into infrastructure up there, and use a facility that's already present. That's just my point of view. Thank you for your time.
Randy Brown.
Hello, I'm Randy Brown. I live in Chino Valley. I'm here today in opposition to the airport. Most of it's been said already, so I'll just give you a personal experience. We moved here from Prescott. We lived in the Pinion Oaks neighborhood, and we had these same planes taking off over our house from 6 in the morning till after 10 at night, all day, every day, and it drove us nuts. We finally sold our house and we moved up here to get away from it. Now it seems like it's following us. And we're on this end of town, the other end of town, but the way I understand it is once they start flying out of there, there's no rules about where they can fly. They can fly over this whole valley constantly. They're going to annoy everybody, not just the people over there. So I ask you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Wyatt Marquez.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Wyatt Marquez. I currently live in Prescott Valley, Arizona. Between me and my dad, we've got about 80 acres right past the mile marker 9 on Perkinsville Road. I grew up down Perkinsville. I was born in YRMC in Prescott. My parents took me home, and I've lived out there for the vast majority of my life. Every memory I have is out in the seclusion of Perkinsville Road. We enjoyed the outdoors and the peace and quiet. My family was fairly secluded even for people who live like that. We didn't know people in the community at all, really. I've never met any of the Perkins family myself personally. I have nothing bad to say about anybody. I am in staunch opposition to this. My dad's going to go ballistic, truth be told, if this thing goes down. I worry about his mental health. That being said, obviously everything's pretty much been gone over at this point. The flight path, the alternate flight path does go pretty much right over our property. I just, the metrics of the whole thing seem a little fishy to me. Embry-Riddle's thing with Cottonwood, we saw how that went down. I mean, I've done a ton of reading on the whole thing, and it seems like the same spit in hand handshake promises that they made there, they're attempting to make here, and we all know how that goes. I got a feeling within just a few years it'd be just as nasty as things got down there. I do love this town, and I love everybody who lives out there personally. I think it's a great place, and I think if you like to live that kind of life, it's a wonderful place to be, and I think this would definitely affect that in a serious way. I do want to say one thing, though, just because I know none of them would because they're too nice. I did hear a direct slight towards somebody in the Garson Bruce Institute, and I will say that I think the rest of us would have a lot easier time internalizing our piece if we all had a fat lease check coming our way as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. David Wolken.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I just have a lot of questions about liability to the town. I don't expect answers, but I'm going to ask them. How would the town of Chino Valley be impacted by Prop 207, the Private Property Rights Protection Act? Has the town considered that it may face many lawsuits from residents suing for compensation for reduced values and other issues such as mental anguish and other health issues? Did you know that under ARS Title 12, a property owner may be awarded their legal fees as well? To protect our property and our legacy, Amy and I will seek damages and encourage everyone affected to do the same. Does the town of Chino Valley, does your insurance carrier know you're getting into the airfield business? I would think by approving this change, the town of Chino Valley would likely be named in any litigation. Has Chino Valley thought about the possibilities of air accidents around an airfield they approved? Has the town considered, God forbid, if an accident occurs and young students are killed, that could possibly run into tens of millions of dollars? How about people and property on the ground? What about fires? What if these planes crossing into Prescott Regional's departure and approach corridors leads to a collision with a jet carrying 100 or more people? How much money are we talking about then? Does Chino Valley have the legal expertise and the funds to fight these lawsuits? How many more attorneys will you need? How far will your insurance carrier go to pay for any judgments, let alone to defend these lawsuits? Could this lead to the financial ruin of Chino Valley? Amy and I have invested a great deal of time and money, our entire life, as have others in the area, to to provide for future generations. We will protect our future and theirs. All these problems can simply be averted by telling Embry-Riddle no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, no. You did. Jocelyn Barnhart.
You got it right. Can you hear me?
Well, even a blind squirrel can occasionally find an acorn.
There you go. I just want to thank you guys for just sitting here and hearing all of this. I mean, I got here later because there were so many people, and I stood out in the cold for a good hour. At least 150 people left because they couldn't get in. So, and they weren't here in favor of the airstrip. They came out to oppose it, just so you know. And I only heard about this last week. I think there are many thousands of people in Chino Valley who have no idea what's going on here tonight. No clue. But they will find out. And you are our representatives. It's up to you. You guys, I appreciate all that you've done here tonight, listening to all this stuff. I know you already know what the right decision is. You guys already know. I don't envy you your position. But you know how detrimental and negatively this proposal would impact our community if you allow the zoning to be changed and you allow it to move forward. You already know. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Dieter Teleferno. Telefero, I'm sorry, I got that last part.
Taliaferro.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not from a liberal area, probably one of the newest people to move to this town. We just closed towards the latter part of November. Took a great risk. We have no family up here, but mainly did it for our children and wanted them to have a future, and really just left it to a higher power that this was the right thing to do. Recently, I was over at a bar and learned this in the newspaper. And unfortunately, where we are, we're not far off from that. Where this development is being proposed and being ultimately decided upon. There was two or not necessarily ironies, but two things that were kind of hitting me as I was waiting out front, coming in. I was looking at the town crest on the rug where it said, looking to the future. While looking at this, I was thinking of this would be a compromise to my kids' future. And I really appreciate hearing about 6 generations and the legacy that that leaves. That's what I sacrificed so much to help to do for my own family. And hopefully I can still be welcomed here as a new person and not an encroachment. One of the things while we were acquiring our property was a fire assessment of risk, and it increased to 1% probability. It made it extremely difficult for us to secure homeowners insurance on the property. I know that fire has been brought up, and I won't spend too much time speaking of that, but will my rates further go, or will I actually be no longer eligible for insurance down the road should an accident happen? Murphy's an interesting person. Also, I took really wanted to see stars, really wanted to enjoy open spaces, kind of more connected with nature, not as a hippie, but I do feel that this phase 1, the discussion on table today, is a slippery slope, as Rush Limbaugh would say. And I took a picture all is waiting out there just to capture the sunset. And if I may share it, I'm willing to. But it's not just about noise. It's not just about monetary gain. It's about all aspects of like what I feel many appreciate what's out here. And with that, I thank you for all your time, and I hope that we find another solution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mary Brown.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Mary Brown, I live in Chino Valley, and I am gonna talk about the noise, but I kinda I know all of you must live here, and I just want you to realize how real it is, and I don't know where the Perkins live, but, you know, everyone sounds like, oh, it's just noise, it's only gonna be over here. I do not trust Embry-Riddle, and I just want you to know, I moved from Pinion Oaks. I knew the airport was there when we moved, and it was fine for the first year. The last 2 years, the flights were constant. We couldn't even go in our backyard. It was so stressful. We had so much anxiety. Even in the house, we had to keep the windows shut to watch TV. It never stops. And I just want everyone here to know that eventually it will be going around the entire town. I honestly believe that. Embry-Riddle cares only about Embry-Riddle. They do not care about any of us, okay? So they don't care about the Perkins. And I know the Perkins are lured in by this money, but I do want you guys to realize this could affect you. It could affect your animals, all of our entire lives. So we moved here after reading the town's vision is to make Chino Valley a desirable place to live, grow, and thrive. But I ask you, do you feel that this fits into that plan? I do not. Is disruptive desirable for anyone living here? If we look at the Cottonwood and Clarkdale residents, their lives seem like they are ruined. And I know you guys keep hearing this, but you really have to think how it is going to affect you someday. I think you love Chino Valley. I absolutely love it here. And I just want you to know it's not a few people who I feel very sorry for that it's going to affect right off the bat. Okay? So I just want you to know that I urge you to vote no on this plan. And I feel the choice of one large property owner does not negate the choice of all our smaller property owners. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Last one. All done. Just for the record, there were 56 people that signed up to speak. Only 3 didn't speak. So we listened to 53 people this evening.
My dogs are crossing their legs.
What's that?
And my dogs are crossing their legs.
Yep. Four people didn't speak. 5 people, sorry about that. All right. So we're at this point where it's later than 9:15. And there's gobs and gobs of things to talk about and discussion to be had. So I'm inclined not to give anybody a break. I think we should hammer this out until we just can't go any further and move it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's right. You're correct. And thank you for reminding me. Mrs. Margaret Perkins has asked to be the last speaker. If you would please introduce who she is, so we all know.
Is this good? My name is Margaret Perkins. I'm the matriarch of the Perkins family. I would like to give you a little of the history of our family. Marion Alexander Perkins had a herd of cattle that he left from Fort Davis, Texas, to come to Arizona. He had bought a ranch here by a Mr. Campbell. So he started out in 1898, and it took him 2 years to drive that herd of cattle here. He settled here in 1900. His son, Nick, was 11 when he started, rode the whole way, and was 13 when he got here. Nick eventually married Evelyn Duncan, and they had 4 sons. Number 3 son was Tom. He and I were married in 1954 by Franklin Parker, who I understand started the little community church here in Chino Valley. Tom and I had 6 children, 3 girls and 3 boys. They all were born here. They all went to school here. 3 of them still live in Chino Valley, as I do. We have always supported the community. And I am a woman of great faith. I pray to my Lord every day. And I know He hears my prayers, even if there's a bunch of airplanes above me. My son Tom, who sits at the end of this table with Emery Riddle, served his country for 30 years in the United States Army. While he was in Iraq, his aircraft was hit with enemy fire. He took the controls, he landed that plane, and saved not only himself, but his co-pilot. And the only way he could do that was through good training. Emery Riddle can train young men and women the same way. Even if they're military or in the private sector. Emery Riddle is one of the greatest universities, aeronautical universities in the world. And we do need good trained pilots. Yes, it will be a financial boost to the town of Chino Valley. Maybe not in this year ahead of us, maybe not 2 years, but you all have to look to the future because it will help our town in the future. So I'm asking you for a unanimous vote for this airstrip. It will be one of the best decisions made for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would the applicant love to come up and speak before us this evening?
I don't think I can
You are
say
not
anything.
required to do so.
I don't think I have anything to say that hasn't already been said, sir. Thank you.
You bet. You're welcome. Pardon me? Yeah, Emery Riddle's going to come up next. Okay, so the applicant also is Emery Riddle University, and you folks have heard all of the questions and concerns and comments. So I would like to give you all an opportunity to respond with some of the questions and things that we've heard. So would one of you like to step up to the microphone and speak?
I can answer questions if that's what you'd prefer I do.
What I would prefer is that you step up here and we'll go over all this stuff, and then whether it be questions or answers to what people have commented about.
Absolutely. I'll be right back. Just have to use the restroom. Yeah, happy to answer this.
First off, does anybody on the commission have any questions for
Yeah, I have one.
Mr. Witcher?
I have
Did
one.
I pronounce your name right, Witcher? Thank you.
I have two, and one of them is not even related to what we're talking about, so I'll wait until after this meeting. But a number of people have talked about alternate viable sites. Did you look into those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We had,
I anticipated you did, but I want to get it on record. Go ahead, please.
yeah, there was actually 5 different sites that we have explored and actually still exploring several of those here in the county.
And this is what, the more viable one right now?
Well, this is one that we've had progress with initial conversations here with the city and with the Perkins family. It seemed like it was worth pursuing and getting to this stage for sure.
One of the major concerns that has been expressed here tonight is the noise issue.
Absolutely.
And the repetitive flight issue, and the disruption of the quiet, peaceful area that's out there, which any noise out there would disrupt it, let alone just an airfield, because there's nothing out there. So would you please comment on what you guys could possibly do to mitigate as much of that as possible, like reduce flight hours, or I don't know.
So in noise mitigation, and again, I'm not a noise expert. I mean, I really like to rely on the data that they've researched here, whoever provided that research to us, to get the exact amounts and any of the measurements that were taken over that time. That's probably our best outcome there. There are things that we do in operations to minimize noise. We do those things at other public accessible airports here in the county, and we would do those things here as well. And it's the traffic pattern, altitude, those kind of things that we operate in. Those are standard and important to be able to hold those valid for our students as we go through a training environment. But there's things like activities that we do, like I hate to use a bunch of aviation words, and please, if you don't, ask me to explain it if it doesn't make sense to you. But things like the touch and go that we've talked about several times, or several folks have brought up. Obviously, that puts the aircraft over the threshold at the end of the runway at a little lower altitude. So sometimes when we're in these environments where we want to reduce the noise for the community, we would do full stop taxibacks. That's a procedure that can be done in those situations, and that allows us to get off the airfield a little bit earlier, so we're a little higher when we enter the threshold or off the threshold. So if there's a populated community that we're flying over, we're at higher altitude and we're over those. So those are the kinds of things that we can do to try to mitigate some noise.
So if I understood what you just said, a complete landing and taxi off and then take off again would be quieter than the touch and go.
Full stop taxibacks have the value, the benefit of putting us at a higher altitude over the threshold, and that higher altitude usually reduces the noise immediately off the airfield.
And would also reduce the repetitions because you got one after another landing. How would that work?
It can't slow down the pattern, you bet. The unfortunate side effect of that is with our operation procedures, Embry-Riddle's operation procedures, nothing to do with the FAA, we usually limit ourselves because of this safety culture that we operate under. We usually limit ourselves to 4 aircraft in the pattern. So if you do full stops taxiback, what that usually ends up doing is extending your what's called a downwind, and which makes your pattern a little bit larger, that circle you fly. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but it can. I'll be honest with you guys.
Okay, also, I witnessed the demo flight myself from the Buddhist Institute. They have a great view of the area there.
You bet.
And there was questions about why you didn't do the lower altitude, like simulating a touch and go without actually doing that. And so and I understand, I guess it's a safety concern that you guys had. So this next demonstration, is there a way to set this up to have a more realistic of what actually is gonna happen?
Yeah, you know, let me talk to the folks that flew. Honestly, I haven't looked at the actual profile we flew for that demonstration yet. We just flew yesterday morning, or midday yesterday, I think it was. So I'd want to look at that profile. Now, obviously, there's not a runway there, so we would, from safety perspectives, we'd limit our altitude and how close we'd get to the ground. But the traffic pattern altitude is obviously a safe altitude to fly in that area.
Yeah, and the other thing is, 7 o'clock in the morning is gonna limit how many people are gonna actually wanna be out there to take a look at it, so maybe in the future, I know this other one happened in the afternoon, that seemed to be more conducive to people being able to witness it. So possibly the next flight that you guys do out there could be put later in the day and with a little bit more, public notice.
You bet. Happy to coordinate with Will. I think Will, you helped us coordinate that. Happy to.
I'm just looking through my notes here, which is a bunch of them. So about is Emory really conducive to improving the road going out to the Perkins Airstrip?
So it might be something that Mark helps us ask. The folks that got involved in engineering, you know, obviously on this proposal, we're talking about the runway there. If there was any damage involved in the construction that we did, of course, you know, that would be something that we would address. But as far as a proposal for us to improve the road, I don't believe that's been talked about in this stage of the proposal.
Okay. I'm going to entertain a thought that maybe we come back and revisit this in a future date, possibly at the next zoning meeting, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of answers that have come up here today that could be probably collated and presented so that when we meet again, we would have documentation about, you know, flights and explain the flight and the other terminology better so that folks that aren't familiar with that business would understand it more.
We're happy to support.
And so I'm gonna ask to extend.
I'll second the proposal.
So I'm gonna say we should extend this meeting, a continuance, I believe is the correct term, to next month. And we will probably try to limit, so we're not hearing repetitively over again what's already been said here tonight by the public in this next meeting, so we can get down to answering and accurately presenting questions and answers.
You could, Mr. Chairman, you could close the public hearing and just have the responses from Embry.
Okay, well, I think that's actually an excellent idea, because all I think we're gonna find on the next meeting is repetition of what we've heard here tonight. So I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting tonight, the public comments part, and at the next meeting, we will start in with answers and questions and more information and maybe possibly some better ideas on the development agreement and the conditional use permit requirements that we've talked about here tonight. Are we good with that? Okay.
I would like some more technical questions answered about the runways and.
So in the next meeting, I think we can find that out. That'll give all of us a chance to collect our thoughts.
Would be good, Mr. Chairman, if there were specific technical questions that any of the members had tonight, that they could share them so that Embry would be aware of what they needed to be researching and bringing back.
Which I'm in agreement with, but if we think of more, we can always ask them at the next meeting.
That is true.
Okay, do you have a specific question right now?
Why the 5,000 foot?
Go right in the microphone.
Why the 5,000 foot runway?
5,000 foot runway serves the purpose that we're looking at this initial stage to operate the 172 Cessna 172s off of. So they, as you can imagine, runways are not cheap. They're expensive. So the long we pay by foot. So to expand that out, there's really no value to it at this point. That secondary piece we're talking about extended 6,000 feet. That brings additional advantage of bringing in the diamonds in this case, the DA-42s. and also gives the Perkins family some options as they look forward towards the future.
Actually, as I understand, the CS 172's runway requirements are about half of that, 5,000 feet.
What's that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
As I understand it, the CS 172 is requirements for their runway is half of the 5,000. It's about 2340 something.
Yeah, I want to go and look at that up and get it to you. Obviously, based on the day and capture that we can. What we look for is the density, altitude. There's a lot of things that impact the performance of the vehicle and the safety margin that we call. Mark is actually the airport designer. He can probably help you with that.
My name is Mark Paslick. I'm with GMC. The length of the runway comes from an FAA AC advisory circular that has nomographs on it that go by mean maximum temperature and also elevation. And so we plug in the type of aircraft, and it tells us what that runway length needs to be. And for this type of aircraft, it's called a B2. It's a B2 category. In a B2 category, it would put us at around 5,000 feet for this type of aircraft. So it's designated by FAA's advisory circular.
As I understand that, for our height and width and length and wind, you might need 4,100 feet. But there's a catch on it, and the catch on that is that it could be potentially dangerous. Is that a true statement? That's
If it was at 4,100 feet?
4,100 feet is a requirement for the altitude, the wind, the length. That's what you need.
It's probably from the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, and from the manufacturer, but FAA never takes things strictly from the manufacturer. Because they have a safety factor that's added into that. And so we put it at 5,000 feet. All of their charts are very conservative, and they're conservative for that reason, for safety.
And will the Dragonfly or the Diamond, will that be in phase one?
No, I think they were talking about that being actually
You need the extension on the arrow?
6,000 feet.
Okay. The last one was, see, I gotta read through my notes too. Why don't we just,
So I would entertain a motion to extend this to next month's meeting.
I have a couple of comments to make too.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question to ask too.
Okay, you guys are not off the hook yet.
Okay. For the applicant, they've made comments about touch and goes and other operations that might be done at the airport, or airstrip, I should say, because it's not an airport, it's an airstrip. I'd like, at the next meeting, I'd like to have a list of all the potential operations that might be done. There's been an article in the paper about stalls, and I don't know if that's going to be done or not, but that has an impact on noise. And somebody made a comment about lead toxin fuel, and I don't think you have lead in the fuel anymore.
Yes,
I mean, for years.
It's still 100 low lead for piston aircraft. It's still in
Okay.
there. But FAA has a program headed to try to remove lead from the aircraft.
Yeah. And somebody made an offer to purchase the land from the Perkins, but I don't think that'll happen.
No, sir.
Or
That will not happen.
lease it because it's a lease. And for the staff, maybe some comments about what's going on with Cottonwood and Clarkdale, so we can have an understanding of why people are so concerned about that. I know the state has a mandate on the time frame of these applications. And I know comments have been made about phase 2, 3, and 4, and we're not looking at that right now. And lastly, for Mr. Perkins,
Yes, sir.
Your family's been here since 1900.
Yes, sir.
Did your family ever object to anybody coming into this area and ruining your views?
No, sir.
And
To
just,
include-
just being too close as a neighbor?
No, sir. They have not.
I was being facetious about
yes,
that,
sir,
but
I caught on.
I wanted to get it on record that everyone is saying they're established communities, and like,
When I
you know.
grew up in the house
Would
with
you
my
mind
brother.
stepping up to the microphone so the people at home can hear?
Oops, sorry. Come here, Governor. Here, let me- Thank you, sir. When I grew up here, I grew up in the house that my brother and Annie live
Yeah.
in now. And there was nothing east of us, nothing.
Yeah.
Old Home Manor was owned by Billy Wells at that time.
Yeah.
Lyra Morgan owned the land where Haystack is.
Yeah.
For people that have been in this community a long time, you remember Gil Bizjack had the corn stand. All of his land is gone now. All that land is houses. Haystack grew up where Lyra Morgan had her shipping corral. Billy Wells, most of his property is gone now, although there is some out by this proposed site that I think Logan Wells currently owns and is looking forward to an increase in that property value as this project matures. I know I've sat here and listened to the concerns. I fully understand those concerns. But I think this is a great project for the town of Chino Valley. And as long as I'm alive and the president of this ranch, I will work with anyone that wants to make this community better and make the future of our children better. I'm available to talk to anytime. I live in Tennessee, but as my wife Joy eloquently said, we're coming back here to Chino, probably build a home up on the ridge above Center Street so that we can participate in Chino Valley's growth. Some of the growth we like, some of it we don't. But all of it is a part of life, I think, and part of this community. And I ask anybody that works on this project, if you approve it, that I will make sure that it's done well, it's done right, and as it grows, the community can be very proud of it. It won't just be a strip, it'll slowly grow into what I hope is something this town can rely on for revenue, for education, and something that we're all proud of. Does any of the committee have any specific questions for me?
Thank you for your comments.
Yep,
Thank
we
you,
appreciate you stepping up there and speaking. That puts a face to this project that we can count on.
Yes, sir, you can.
Thank you. Okay, so
One more.
One more.
next question.
I guess the Emery Riddle, this is a once upon a time thing. There's Daytona Beach. Did you start with the dirt lot? And now what do you have?
It's a great question. No, we moved to Daytona Beach in '65 up from Miami. Obviously, Emery Reynolds is celebrating our 100th anniversary. We've been in this business for a long time, almost 50 years here in Prescott. '65, we moved up to an airport there in Daytona Beach. We took over that. At that time, it was a small program, aerospace engineering, a flight program, a maintenance program. Now they're at 8,900 students out there. But most importantly, I think for this conversation, and it was mentioned in the proposal here, is that we've introduced a microplex system out there, kind of an entrepreneur center out there that we mentioned in the proposal, and that what we know for sure. Can't make any promises about anybody coming to the community here. For sure, we can't do that. But what we do know for sure is that the large industries out there that support the aviation, aerospace, and space industry, they love our talent. They love the students that we produce, and that's worked out good in our favor. And that, in the case of Daytona Beach in particular, and growing that, and of course, one of the large OEMs just brought 400 engineers into that community. What's helped us a lot out there is there was really no aviation, aerospace, or space structure around that area. Really, the talent and what made the difference for that community was the talent that Emery Riddle was able to provide and the services Riddle was supposed to provide for that community. And they grown over the last decade. That complex out there is completely full right now, and they're expanded it twice. And of course, a large OEM just brought in 400 engineers.
Ken, tell them what OEM means. They may not know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me for that. Original equipment manufacturer. So if you think about it, think about an airplane manufacturer.
So you started with a dirt lot. Oh, no, you bought an airport. And
Public airport.
talk about growth, because that's what nobody's talked about in this room at all tonight. Is we start with a strip, and is it 15? Is it 20 years away when growth actually grows towards Chino Valley, which would be the greatest thing ever? Tell me.
That's phase 2, 3, and 4.
Well, but it's gotta. That's what I'm asking about Daytona Beach. It started out as a little airstrip, and now what is? And we can use our own vision here. We don't need to. We know you don't have a crystal ball, but we do. You don't.
Right.
And
I certainly don't.
So, growth.
Yeah, right now, Daytona Airport, we're here at Prescott, we're about 3,300 students. They're at 8,900 students. They've had that kind of growth. The investments that I would hate to even put a number, and I wouldn't do it without confirming it, put a number of investment in that community has. They have some really strong economic development conversations that they have around the Microplex, that entrepreneur center that is part of stage 3 and 4 out here. So the art of possibility is pretty high there, and we've demonstrated that in Daytona. Now, I can't say for sure we can do that here, but I can tell you absolutely, Riddle was a big piece of what brought that growth and that development in those companies into the Daytona Beach area, without a doubt. It was a very similar type of demographics of the community, a more service-based, more retirement type community. So we had the same type of demographics, and they were able to change that through their development.
I guess that's the answer.
Thank you. I can't, again, no crystal balls, but I can tell you what we've been out there. And again, if anybody in the city needs to go out and see any of that to witness everything.
So is that an invitation to go to Daytona Beach like in February?
You're more than welcome.
Just asking.
I catch your drift there for sure.
I have a question for Will and Lori. I know Will can probably handle this. Would you please step up there? There's been a lot of, I won't say a huge amount, but enough comments about the Clarkdale and Cottonwood airports and how they've had trouble working with Embry-Riddle. I watched the supervisors meeting back in April, and they were very upset. But I'd like for you to explain how this is going to be different than that.
So I can't speak to interactions with Embry, but I can at least speak to the characteristics of the airports or the airstrip proposals from what. Sorry, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Cool. So I can't speak to interactions with Embry-Riddle, but I can show the difference between what this area is and specific to this proposal and what is out there currently at Cottonwood, Clarkdale, and specific to the density around there.
I guess mostly what I'm aiming for is the conditional use of the use permit and the first development agreement continuing through however many more future ones there may be. This is a much more solid and controllable entity to work with than the agreements that they had in Clarkdale and Cottonwood. Is that a true statement? As far as everybody keeping and honoring their commitments?
Can't really see.
If we're using a development agreement, that's a legal contract, that's binding.
Okay. I guess the question is, and you may not know the answer, Clarkdale and Cottonwood, did they have a development agreement or just a use?
That's what I want you to
I think
explain.
it's a public airport.
Ah.
And so that's a different thing than what this
Okay.
is.
Point taken.
It wasn't codified and defined very clearly, and this setup here is designed to help mitigate that. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right, that's what I was going to say. Okay, Vice Chair.
So in phase 1, will there be a development agreement?
Yes. There will be.
I thought there was only a CPUC.
Nope.
Okay.
All right, Vice Chair.
I move that this be continued to next month.
We have a motion. I'd like a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm certain nobody would disagree because it's dang near 10 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand my notes over plus the questions that I asked to town staff. And I would like to see at the next meeting as many answers and things set up as possible from the presentation from town staff and also from Emery Riddle about the noise mitigation and the taxi business where you land and get off the runway. Things that would help make you guys be the best neighbor that you can for the area you're going to be in, which I think all of us would totally agree is very important. So that's what I would like to see come back to us. And if anybody on the commission has questions for town staff before that meeting, then I would like to see that given to them. And also, there was no definitive answer on your January 17th flyover. Can we get a little more, what's the right word? A little more accurate look of what the people are going to be seeing, and a time of day like the time this last one was, which I thought was very good, to do that and to be as authentic about what's really going to happen there as possible. Can we get an agreement to do that?
Absolutely. You must work with Will for that, or
I would like to go through town staff, because then they can let all of the appropriate parties, including town council and other concerned people, know when this is going to happen, including the Buddhist Institute and Haystack and anybody else that wants to watch it, because that's the transparency that we're going to need for this to be successful.
Sure.
So if we could do that, that would be excellent.
Mr. Chairman, if people signed the attendance roster with information that we can access to send them that, if they gave us an email address, we can also share that information with
So
them.
on a lot of these, there are email addresses, which I'm going to hand
So
back
if
to you
somebody
guys.
didn't provide that and they want that contact information, they can provide us that information before they leave tonight.
Okay. Another thing that I'm going to make an assumption on is if your email address is on here, you're going to want somebody to contact you. So if you get contacted and say, wait a minute, I didn't want that, then you shouldn't have put your email address on here, because this is how we're going to communicate. Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, we're good. What's that? Yep. So we're motion to adjourn for this time. We're done. Folks, I want to compliment.
I make a motion we adjourn.
I just did it because
okay.
We're done. I want to congratulate everybody here for being polite, concise, and nobody got excited.